The influence of Jewish history reaches much farther back than the recent tragedies of the Holocaust. People and cultures from all over the world and throughout history have produced their own unique origin stories. The origin story of the Jews and mankind in general can be found in the biblical book of Genesis. While not everyone believes in the veracity of the Bible, billions of Jews, Christians, and Muslims who hold the narrative dear to their respective religions would have to disagree. Moses, or whoever may have chronicled the events, had to cast their mind backward in time to tell us what happened. After the general creation story, the book of Genesis follows a specific lineage of people, leading to the great biblical patriarch Abraham. The nature of these poetic stories implies a sense of historical inaccuracy. This inaccuracy is not an indictment of these texts, but a strength, for strict historical accounts often fail to capture the imagination in the same way. Considering the fondness for storytelling in the Middle East and its surroundings, the Jewish tradition is shrouded in mysteries. Here are 7 mysteries to spur your imagination. King David's Tomb. Where is King David's tomb? The Jewish tradition has attempted to grapple with this mystery for a long time. The young man became a heroic fighter for Israel. In Scripture, David famously slew the giant named Goliath in a battle against the Philistines. After being driven out of Saul's court, he became the king of the southern portion of Israel, known as Judea or Judah. He would soon get the consent of the northern tribe as well, effectively making him the king of all of Israel. Since any proper kingdom needs a capital, David chose a centralized location in Judea, which he named the City of Peace. The Hebrew word for peace is shalom. This would have made the name of his capital Jerusalem, and one can see a similarity between this name and the city that would one day be called Jerusalem. It is interesting to note that for a long time, academia was unsure whether David existed, but a recent discovery in 1993 has changed that opinion. People have also associated a location near the old city of Jerusalem as the tomb of King David, but it is an unlikely proposition. The tomb was built around 2,000 years after the death of David. According to the Hebrew Bible, he is buried in the city of David with his fathers. Archaeologists have found a tomb matching this description, but are unsure whether it contains the king's remains. Since no evidence allows for closure on the mystery of King David's tomb, it continues to perplex historians. The Golem. For a long time, only a handful of Jewish mystics were aware of the legend of the Golem, but it has gone on to become one of the most enduring figures of Jewish lore. Even though earlier recourses about the Golem tells a different story, it is the latter interpretation that captivates the Jewish as well as non-Jewish cultures today. According to the original reference in the Book of Psalms, the Golem was the primordial form that God turned into a human being. Another reference recounts a tale of rabbis who created a calf out of the earth and ate it. However, in modern thought, an unformed being that can be brought to life as a harbinger of evil or a force of good, the Golem has often served well in the Jewish community. For this reason, it is brought up in uncertain and troubling times, becoming a symbol of hope and reassurance against the pangs of time. The Golem can grow as powerful as its master, so it also works as a story of ego and futility. These themes carry the heavy influence of Jewish folklore. The fragments of the modern idea can be traced back to Rabbi Eleazar ben Judah in the early 13th century. However, it is not until the 16th century that these ideas turned into a cohesive whole at the hands of Rabbi Judah Loew in Prague. According to the lore, the rabbi created a golem to defend the Jewish community against the anti-Semitic sentiment. The golem turned too powerful and violent, leading the rabbi to confront and destroy its growing evil potential. The legend claims that he hid the pieces of the golem in the attic of an old synagogue in Prague. The Altnuschel, where the golem supposedly resides, is the oldest still active synagogue in Europe. But does the golem still lurk there? Gilgal Rafael. Who was responsible for making Stonehenge? Not the individuals who built Gilgal Rafael. Why? Because according to some, they lived a few centuries before the Stonehenge people. The massive stone structure in the Golan Heights is ridiculously old. It was built almost a couple thousand years before the Israelites settled in the land of Israel and made it their home. For the sake of clarification, it should also be pointed out that Israelites are different from Jews, not to mention a lot older. Around 3500 BCE, although the dates go from anywhere between 3500 and 2000 BCE, some people arranged almost 42,000 tons of basalt stone in 5 circles. From a bird's eye view, these concentric circles, each of them 150 meters in diameter, are a sight to behold. These circles may have risen as high as 30 feet in their heyday. Not only does this stone structure possibly predate Stonehenge, but it likely predates the first Egyptian pyramid, which makes it all the more fascinating. Interestingly, it has an even more interesting history. Gilgal Rafael translates to Wheel of Giants, which makes sense when one looks at its architecture. In Jewish lore, the site is associated with the race of giants. These giants, or Rephaim, were an ancient race that Abraham encountered upon settling on the land of Canaan, and later Moses defeated the last king of these giants. According to the Torah, the Rephaim was a group of underworld spirits interacting with humans. The lore is interesting to delve into, but archaeologists still do not know who built this structure. Common theories postulate that it was probably a burial complex or a cult center, if not both. The Ark of the Covenant. The most sacred missing relic in the world, the Ark of the Covenant, is said to contain the original inscription of the 10 Commandments on stone tablets. While it is normal to associate Indiana Jones with a popular artifact, it was said Moses built it on the orders of God. The Ark is the most cherished of Jewish artifacts, and its disappearance poses a million questions. The Ark is mentioned in the second book of Chronicles for the last time. After that, it mysteriously disappears from the Bible. The Ark was stored at the Temple of Jerusalem. Nobody knew its fate after the Babylonian conquest of Jerusalem in the late 6th century BCE. The most popular of Jewish mysteries, a search is still underway to locate the Ark of the Covenant. Masada. The Roman historian Josephus records a story from Herod's time that is still the stuff of legends. When Cestius Gallus, the Roman governor of Syria, sent some of his representatives back to Judea to assess the situation, they found that large demonstrations were taking place in which Jews were demanding independence, as well as an embassy to Rome in which they could state their grievances directly. The Jewish protesters were indeed getting bold by this point, and it seemed like the whole thing could blow up at any second. After one particularly brutal crackdown, the conflagration finally erupted. The streets were filled with Jewish protesters who, due to their large numbers, managed to push out the occupying Roman soldiers. A group of Jewish revolutionaries known as the Zealots then stormed the Roman garrison and took control of the strategic fortress of Masada. Here, they were able to solidify their position and take advantage of a massive stockpile of weapons. The absolute point of no return occurred when a zealot named Eleazar ben Simon ordered all of the Roman hostages that were being held to be killed in cold blood. As a result of these events, Gallus, the governor of Syria, was dispatched to Jerusalem to wage an all-out war against the rebels. However, the zealot forces were able to outsmart Gallus and launched a successful ambush of his troops as they approached their stronghold. Gallus's army was crushed. Irked and infuriated, Emperor Nero sent a top general named Vespasian to take care of the situation. Vespasian had to retreat upon hearing the news of Nero's death, and Titus, his son, took over the command. Just as the Romans came, the Jews made the fateful decision to end their own lives. They killed their wives and children before committing suicide themselves. Sadly, they had to come to the cold conclusion that they were better off dead than falling into the hands of the vengeful Romans. The archaeological evidence is unsatisfactory. We know the names of 12 Jewish men and are aware of 28 skeletal remains. What happened to all the others? Maybe their bodies were carried somewhere. Maybe only a handful of them committed suicide, and the rest managed to run away. Maybe Josephus made this story up to glorify the might of the Romans. Who knows? The 10 Lost Tribes. After the Egyptian Exodus, the Israelites were divided into 12 tribes. 2 tribes settled in southern Canaan, while the other 10 opted for the north. This story begins with the end of Solomon's reign, which was quite hectic. Pressured by his foreign wives, Solomon had begun to build shrines and altars to foreign deities on the very grounds of the temple. This was viewed as an outrage by many. In addition, Solomon's grand construction projects in Jerusalem had caused severe taxation, which led to even more unrest. By the time his son Rehoboam succeeded Solomon, Israel had broken into open civil war. The country's northern section broke away to wage war on the south. One of Solomon's own former court officials, a man named Jeroboam, led the charge and was made the ruler of the 10 tribes of northern Israel, while Solomon's son, Rehoboam, who ruled from Jerusalem, struggled to maintain what was left of his kingdom in the south. The northern kingdom was known as Israel, and it would keep this title until the two kingdoms eventually reunited. The northern kingdom would last for some 200 more years before being wiped out by the Assyrians around 721 BCE. When Hoshea, the monarch, attempted to defy the Assyrians and not pay tribute, the great Assyrian king Sargon II ordered their destruction. This brought the whole Assyrian army down on Hosea's realm, utterly destroying the northern kingdom. The southern kingdom of Judea, in the meantime, would continue being ruled by a series of monarchs from the line of David until around 587 BCE, when the Babylonian conquest, followed by the Babylonian captivity, ended the monarchy. In many ways, the defeat of the northern kingdom of Israel was much more devastating to the Jews than the capture of the southern kingdom. When the Assyrians stormed into northern Israel, they destroyed virtually everything in their wake and deported most of the population. The survivors were exiled, killed, or intermarried into oblivion until the 10 tribes of northern Israel effectively ceased to exist, forever becoming known as the 10 lost tribes of Israel. According to Judaist tradition, it is believed that the 10 lost tribes must be reunited so that the Messiah can return and bring them to their ancient homeland. The Messiah. There are many messianic figures in the Abrahamic religions, but there is only one end-of-the-world Messiah. The Messiah will transform the world's suffering into peace, the perils into joys. According to Jewish lore, there is a Messiah in every era, but he shall only step forward when the time is right. Considering the situation, there have been many people who have claimed to have been the Messiah. Some claim Jesus was the Messiah, but the Jews reject this idea. They believe that Christ does not fulfill many conditions of the Messiah. So, when will the Messiah arrive? And who will he be? To learn more about 7 mysteries surrounding Jewish history, check out our book, History of the Jews, a captivating guide to Jewish history, starting from the ancient Israelites through Roman rule to World War II. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free mythology bundle ebook while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.